All right, so the bee season is coming to a close. The honey is almost fully harvested. We're going to be doing our last harvest this weekend. It's time to start winterizing the hive. So I'm going to show you how I make my candy boards. So we're going to turn this into this. So what we have here is the remnants of one of the boards left over from last year. And you could see they got in there and started eating, and it brought them out of the winter into the spring. They got into the pollen, and this was a good surviving hive. So there's many ways of making these candy boards. I tend to take the dry approach. I don't want to cook it over the stovetop. I don't want to make it scalding hot. I don't want to burn myself. So my candy boards start with sugar. I'm going to probably use 10 pounds of sugar per candy board. I'll have to see how that goes. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of water per pound. All right, so I'm two-handing it. So I'm going to add my sugar in, and I'm just going to add my water as I go along. 3, 4, 5. This is a 5-pound bag. 6, 7. Like I said, it's not science by any means, and since I'm using 2 hands, these aren't exactly tablespoons. All right. So that was about 10 tablespoons 10 tablespoons of water to 1 5-pound bag. I'm basically just taking my hand and I'm working the water into the sugar, and what I'm looking for is a kind of like a nice sandcastle consistency throughout the whole bag. All right, so I actually ended up putting about another 3 tablespoons in for a total of 13 into the 5-gallon bag. And as you can see, it holds together fairly well. I can make a sugar ball that doesn't, I mean, it falls apart, but you don't want this mushy. This is kind of the consistency that you want. So it's this sandy consistency that sort of holds shape. That's what you want. So now the idea is to fill your candy board. So I'm going to use this container to kind of block off the hole, because I want to keep that as an opening, because when this sits on top of the hive, this is where the bees will be coming up into it. So I want to keep that open and not make more of a mess than I have to. So now it's just a matter of putting the sugar in and filling up the candy board about halfway. So I started, what you didn't see in the video was I made the pollen patties upstairs. I got this bee or brood booster. It's just a little packet of pollen. And I put 1 cup of water in there. I rolled it out using confectionery sugar because it sticks all over the place. So I rolled it out nice and thin, and then I cut those pieces up. And what I'm going to do now is place the pieces throughout the board. Keep in mind too, I am certainly no expert. I've researched these things for several years now. I've been making my candy boards like this for the last 3 or 4. I've had very good luck with them, and again, I don't like working with the hot material, cooking on the stove and all that. So at this point, and I try to keep the pollen patties away from the middle of the hole, because what I don't want is them to get up here and start eating through and hit the pollen patties in January, you know, so which could happen. But again, not really understanding fully what goes on in that hive. I just give them the tools that I think could benefit all of us. So at this point, I'm gonna just take more of the sugar now and finish off this board, making sure that I keep the level of sugar under the height of the candy board. As you can see now, this is packed in really well, and I'm just really compressing it and packing it down, trying to make it as level as I can. Obviously, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to make sure that the inner cover can go on and it won't be bowed at all. For me, this is the best part. You know, just make sure that this is nice and tight around your placeholder here, and then when you pop it out, you have that perfect little hole for them to come up through and start feeding. So this candy board is done. If I were going to put it on the hives now, I would wait probably 3 or 4 days for it to harden up. This thing will get hard as a rock, and it'll stay outside and hold up no problem. But I'm going to let these stay down here 3 or 4 days, and I'm going to move them up to the bee yard and just keep an eye on the weather, and we'll get them on the hive sometime in October, I would think.